Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the old League of Inches in another week and another plenty of talking points. Look, we're going to try and mix things up a little bit this week after a bit of feedback and a couple of ideas me and Sid have tossed up in regards to a bit of structure moving forward. So give us some feedback after the video. Let us know what you think of it. I think it's going to be actually a bit of fun and good content involved and a bit more shorter topics, which would be good. But first things first, and I'm going to keep on the old hats off award for the week. I'm giving it to the Cowboys this week. I think I watched that game, and I think the Cowboys, if you watched them, I looked at their draw before last week, you've seen them versus the next 6 weeks is your top six at the moment. And I think any team in their right mind would be a bit intimidated by that. And I think with all the pressure and all the media about their coach and some of the certain players there and not playing for each other and things like that, for the Cowboys to come out and play the way they have last week and made a statement against the Knights who were going red hot, basically showed that they're actually there playing some heart and playing for their coach. Look, Sid, I don't know, I'll bring you in here, and I know you've had a bit of a chat last week about Pearce and the Knights, and I sort of predicted, I guess, as such, a little bit of a downfall coming for the Knights. But what do you make of that game? How do you think the Cowboys went?
Look, at the end of the day, I mean, you have your effort, you have your structure, you have your star players, your game breakers, but the game is won and lost in the ruck and in the urgency of the ruck. And in that game, quite simply, the Cowboys were more urgent. They were desperate for a win, and you're spot on. I couldn't agree more about the coach thing. Paul Green copped a bit of flack. I think it's kind of unwarranted, given that he's a premiership winning coach. I know he had Thurston, but you still got to bring home the premiership, and he did. He's a premiership winning coach, so he should have a bit of leeway. And he copped a bit during the week, and the players took it upon themselves to out enthuse the Knights, and they beat him to everything. Knights were trying to absorb and counter, and then they were just second to every loose ball. They play the ball 1 millisecond quicker, then 2 milliseconds quicker. Then the Cowboys just rolled them and eventually overwhelmed them, and then the tries started coming. So it was an effort game, and that's the core. They reminded everyone that it's a simple game at the end of the day. You win the ruck, and then things will fall into place.
Yeah, I think a big thing I noticed, especially, they've changed in their hookers. They've changed Robson now is the starting hooker, and they've dropped Granville, who we all know how good Granville was in the past. I think he's sort of getting a bit past it now, but Robson just changed that team as soon as he was there, and the way he was just able to go in and around the ruck, I noticed straight away, and that difference in the Knights with Clemmer and things like that just couldn't keep up with him. He was just a little jet going in and out. So big things coming for the Cowboys. I tell you what, even though they're versing the top six coming up, I don't think anyone wants to verse them at the moment. So it's going to be a team that's on the rise, I feel, and we'll get a good gauge of where they're at over the next few weeks. Look, what we're doing now, guys, we've changed up the structure. We're going to find about 6 talking points a week to stick to. We're going to call it a set of 6, so keep it to a bit of a rugby league terminology for everyone out there. So we're going to do the first tackle here. We're going to have a bit of a chat about the Panthers. I thought they played very well last week. It feels like a while ago now, last Thursday. I don't remember what happened on the weekend, let alone bloody Thursday night. But I think for me, the biggest thing, I think Penrith showed a bit of class, which they haven't shown for a while. And I think Cleary, we all know what he had. His face was all messed up. But he just showed absolute control. And to be honest, I haven't really been a massive Cleary fan yet. But that was the game for me that actually turned my thoughts on him and how much he was actually able to just grab that game by the scruff of the neck when it was needed. And he literally it was like he just put his hand up and said, boys, give it to me right now. Let's go from here. Because there was a point in that match where South started to come a little bit and Penrith seemed to hold the ball. And once South got a bit more confidence was when Penrith started to go, all right, let's go. Let's get up that gear. And that's exactly what they did. So, Sid, what were your thoughts about the Panthers? Did you like what you see?
Look, the Panthers were, let's say, looking back at that game, I mean, everyone's a master in hindsight, but I thought they were hanging on in terms of previous games. They were just hanging in there. It's always a good sign when they defend well. And then when Cleary came back, and as they say, a lot of commentators said that he adjusted to the new rules and whatever else. Bottom line is, what he came back was he was the final piece of the puzzle. He's their organising half. They've got a couple of options as the running 5'8" role, but he's definitely the missing piece. And I know it's such a cliche. I actually hate the line, "It's his team," quote unquote, but it's actually his team, dare I say. And we're going to touch on more on this on tackle too. The expectation of halves, and maybe perhaps it's a timely reminder that Cleary's been around for a long time, but he's still only early 20s. He's still 20-something. He's only just – look at Daly Cherry Evans. Everyone bangs on about how he's the best halfback. But he's 29 last year. He's 30 this year. It only took him to that age to really control every game, every week. And now he is the best halfback going around at the moment.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? It just, like I said, we'll talk about it more on tackle too, but Cleary has just showed that sign that he can run a game, he can control a game, he knows when to up the tempo to get points or earn a penalty, and to slow it down when his players need to just walk to the scrum for a second. That's just a little inkling of what halves have to have, that instinct, obviously, and the ability to execute as well.
Exactly. Well, look, while you're on the ball, I'm just going to give you an offload. Let you run one up and take tackle 2 for me. So off you go.
Okay, so tackle 2 is half unfair. The reason I call it half unfair is a bit of a pun with references to the halves. I really feel for the halves. As soon as you're a halfback of 5'8" that's recently signed a decent contract, all of a sudden, every keyboard warrior out there wants to bag him out. Even more so, it's just like everyone's favourite punching bag, just the halfback. We talked about the sad eyes of guys like Ash Taylor and Ben Hunt. These guys really, really take it to heart. In the past, we've seen Jamie Soward, for example, cop it and cop memes to this day. The guy's a premiership winner. Like, what more do you want from him? All right, he's not an immortal, but he's a premiership winner. And they cop it. And Jamie Soward's an advocate for mental health with regards to players copying it. And this is why I called it half unfair. It's kind of unfair on the scrutiny that they get. I understand that it comes with the pay packet, but it doesn't mean they need to be ridiculed and bullied and all that sort of thing. And the other side of it is the on-field side. Is even the most expert of experts, even immortals on TV, they talk about them. They say, "Oh, why don't you just run more? Just run more." When they know you can't just run. A half just can't run for the sake of running. It usually means if they run because they feel the pressure, and commentators said you need to run, and they've set themselves a little target to say, all right, I'm going to have 4 runs this game. They end up pushing it and running at the wrong time. It's not off a quick play of the ball or backtracking defense. They get nailed, or they try something. They try a flick ball or a long ball, or a grubber goes dead. And it just gets worse and worse. They're forcing themselves. It's not that simple to just run. Oh, why didn't he run? Oh, he's great when he runs the ball more. How often do you hear that on TV before the games? Oh, he needs to run the ball more. Yeah, no worries. It's not. They, of all people, these guys on TV, ex-players, they of all people know it's not that simple. If the opportunities aren't there for 3 games, he shouldn't run for 3 games.
Yeah.
But so I just think it's unfair.
I think Andrew Johnson's a good one. When you listen to his I don't listen to Channel 9 much anymore. I watch all the games on Fox, but he used to be a big advocate with the halves. He'd always say the forwards need to be going forward first and generate something for him to get onto. If you got a halfback running just for the sake of it, he's going to get smashed, and then all of a sudden you've got $800,000 to $1 million on the sideline, and your team goes to half of what it was. I think, as you touched on with the pay packet with halfbacks, and it's been a point that I've wanted to raise for a while, is that it's not the halfback's fault, that money that he's getting. It's not the player's manager's fault what he's getting. It's the club's fault for what he's getting. So a club will give them the money that they think they deserve. It's like you mentioned Ben Hunt. It's not his fault he's getting $1 million plus at the Dragons. The Dragons seen him play the Broncos and said, you know what, we think he's $1 million player. It's on the Dragons now. It's the fans who sit there in their chairs and say, all right, Hunt isn't playing up to his pay packet. I'm sorry, but if I was doing my work of line, and someone comes around and goes, you know what, I'm going to give you 200 grand for it, and I'm sitting here on bloody 80K or something, do you think I'm going to say no? 100% I'm going to go there and go, yeah, no worries, thank you. I'll keep playing my trade here for doubles a coin. It's got nothing to do with the players. I agree, though, the players, once you get to a certain pay packet, the onus is on you then to become more of that professional athlete. So you've got to dedicate more of your time. I think that's why players like Thurston and Cronk were so good with holding that pay packet. They were literally, you could tell they were almost a 24/7 NRL player. So whatever they were doing was always had the game in the back of their mind. So I think you've made some very good points with that. And I think it's good for listeners to think back and go, you know what, before I quickly criticise the players and what they're doing, to sit back and think of who actually gave them that money and who's got them playing like that and things like that. Because a lot of the time, all the players go to the structure side of things. It's the coach's structure that they're trying to play to originally. So there's a couple of things in there that you need to think about. But I think you've raised some good points there.
Yeah.
So what I'll do now, I've got third tackle. I've got the ball back off you. I want to take a run up. I want to have a chat about, just quickly, something I've seen a lot more happening probably the last year or two when I'm watching it. I tell you what, it just frustrates the crap out of me. The amount of times the team is on the attack or has got some momentum and a player of the other team goes down hurt and injured. And the trainer's going, oh, I need help. And all of a sudden they spend a minute with him just to check out some part of his body that didn't even look like it got hurt in the first place. And then all of a sudden he's back up running around. He's all good, back into the defensive line. It's all fine and all well and good. The team has then lost all the momentum it's had. The player wasn't even involved with the play to start with. It wasn't like he was in the tackle. It's 60 metres on the other side of the field. Yeah, play's being stopped. I've seen it a couple of times on the weekend where the guy's almost on the sideline, the trainer's waving to say, hang on guys, stop the play. And the other team's right there on the 10, 20 metre line about to score a try. Like, I don't know what you're thinking of it at the moment, Sid, but as a fan watching the games, it's frustrating as all hell for me.
Well, look, I can't disagree with you on that one. It is frustrating when we always talk about winning the ruck. We talk about it's a momentum game. It's hard because you don't know if it's a real injury or not. If there's a real injury, I mean, like you said, sometimes it doesn't even look like they hurt the puck. They claim they hurt, but they're crying wolf, as the old additive goes. And yeah, well, they're taking the piss, to put it more bluntly. Yeah. And it's quite frustrating. I see in soccer, for example, British or English soccer, for example, there was a period a couple of years ago where they got frustrated with players feigning injury to the point where if the ref had a feeling that this guy could move, they actually ref go outside, off the sideline, and he'd have to wait for the linesman to wave him back in. And they did it a few times for like a season, and then eventually players stopped doing that. You still get the rolling around like you did, but it was just so much. It got to a point where the league had to do something, and they did. I think we're going down that path, man, because the team's gaining momentum, like you say. Quick play the balls, they're in behind the ruck, set a 6, repeat set, and then the trainer's going nuts, and he's disrupting the game. We're trying to make it faster. If it's in danger, if it's right near the ruck or whatever, all right, we'll stop it, no worries. But it's got to be a line. There's got to be some integrity as well in the players. I mean, it's probably not going to happen anytime soon, because once a few players see it, they'll do it because they think, oh, but he did it last week. You know what I mean? Yeah. Something needs to be done. Maybe the ref needs to be a little bit less of a bleeding heart and more ruthless, and just say, mate, get off. You hurt? See you later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, no, I think that it's a personal one for me at the moment. It's just so frustrating. It just stops the game for a little couple of minutes, and I hate it as much as they're going up to the bunker every try at the moment. I'm hating it. Look, fourth tackle. I want to keep the ball for a second, and I want to have a quick chat about. I know that the team close to your heart, and I don't want to sound harsh because I know it was against the Roosters on the weekend, but I think because of some other clubs at the moment, like the Broncos and the Warriors, the Dragons have gone and been put on the back burner a little bit. We touched on them a couple of weeks ago, and we sort of spoke a bit at length with what their issues are and things like that. I think they got a couple of little soft wins up, and it sort of went, all right, let's forget about the Dragons. The Broncos are getting smashed, so let's have a chat about them. I watched that on Friday night, and I just thought that was a game where, if the changes that the Dragons looked like they had made over the last couple of weeks had actually happened, they would have won that game. Look, I know it was against the Roosters, but they were without two of their better players to start with. Then they lost a couple of players fairly early in the game as well. People like Hargo's played up pretty much 80 minutes. They're starting front row. I just thought when I was watching it, and I'm not being a Dragons fan, so I'll be a bit more ruthless, but they needed someone to grab that game, and once again, it's Norman, it's Hunt, and things like that just aren't grabbing it from the start and going, all right, let's go, let's take this game. Because, as I said, the Roosters were there to be taken down. I think a lot of teams would have actually beaten them on Friday night. As a fan, watching that, and I know you were messaging me, you were pretty frustrated watching it because you're thinking pretty much the same as me. What were your thoughts originally on at the time, and then has it changed over a couple of days thinking about it and looking at your chat groups and things like that?
Look, with that game, at the time when it was 14-12 by the Roosters, the Roosters were ahead, and actually it was 14-10, and we had a chance. We got a penalty, and we kicked for goal for some unknown reason. So we're down, we kicked for goal. And I thought that was very negative. Firstly, I don't know who makes those decisions, but the trainer was putting the two fingers up. There was a couple of key points. So when we got to 14-12, Roosters were attacking the line, peppering the line, and there was some desperate defence, some impressive defence. But then Roosters lost the ball. They turned it over on the last, and the Dragons were playing, like running it out from their 10. And then Hunt did a short ball to Cam McInnes, who was playing the running lock role at that point when Hunt gets on. And I don't know if he was trying to pass, like use McInnes as a decoy, but he threw a rocket and it rocketed off his chest. And then the Roosters came for another set. And then we repelled them again. This time it was a 7-tackle set. And then we had a 20-metre tap. The Dragons had a 20-metre tap. And then they made, obviously, with 20-metre tap, a few quick dumps and you're down attacking, and inevitably the third or fourth tackle, so you still have tackles up your sleeve. And then McInnes made a half break from an offload from Fumiano, and then he turned around to offload and threw it to a Roosters player. And then the Roosters came back and attacked. So while that defence was good, this was the false hope I'm talking about. I was worried that they were going to do something silly because they've used up so much petrol. Then the next time Roosters attacked, they went through virtually untouched. Like it was 2-3 tackles, and then they crashed over. And then they scored again, and they kicked it for Morris, and then they scored again, and then they spread it out to him when Saab came in. It became easy because they did the body blows with the repeat sets on the line. And at that time, the point of me saying that is at that time, that's when you get the ball, whether it's a 7-tackle set and you end up in good ball area, an attacking area, or not. They needed that leadership you're talking about. Take the game and control it and say, boys, calm down. We've just defended, 12, 18, 14 tackle, whatever it was, against the best team in the comp. We've won the comp twice in a row. Let's put it out. Somebody pull up with a cramp. This is your favourite thing. This is the games. Well, they're not stopping a ruck. They're slowing down the scrum.
Yeah.
Kick it out. Use your brain. Use your rugby league brain. I always talk about athletes and rugby league brains. There's a difference, Where's the rugby league brain? That we have, and this is the last thing I'll say on it. St. George have a an inspiring leader, but they don't have a tactical leader. McInnes is inspiring. The guy punches above his weight, kills himself 50-odd tackles like it's nothing, and all his hit-ups and everything he does, he leads from the front, but maybe he's not a tactical leader that could understand that. It just wasn't there, and then the Roosters ran away with it. It was a lost cause. They were there, but not good enough, mate. Coach, on-field brains. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, look, as I said, I'm not a Dragons fan. I haven't followed the Dragons for anywhere near as long as you have. But on the outside looking in, a quick one for you off the cuff, and a thought that just popped up in my head in terms of your spine. Now, I think you're sticking now with Dufty. It looks like. I think they've said on Dufty. I think Norman's going to be your 5'8" no matter what, so you've got to stick with that. And I think it's Clune or Klein or something, whatever his last name is your half. And still, for mine, it doesn't look like he's getting a fair go. He's getting taken over on the field a lot of the time. But with Hooker, and I want to touch on this carefully because I know a lot of you Dragons fans love McInnes, and I know for sure he's your heart and soul of your club. Now, you've got Hunt there as well. He comes on after, 20 minutes, and McInnes moves to, say, the lock position. With the game, and I think we've seen now the game, how it's going, the better teams seem to have a bigger forward pack that can do a bit of offloading and a bit of movement around the ruck. So you got Parramatta with RCG, Paulo, you got the Roosters with Hargraves and things like that, and Radley before he got injured. Do you think you're losing something as a team with McInnes going then to lock and Hunt coming onto hooker? Because there was a time there on Friday, I actually just looked at your team and I thought it looked like a fairly small team out there compared to a lot of the others out there.
Well, definitely. I mean, what we're seeing is a sign of a theory that because the game's quicker, it's open for the little men. I mean, I don't know if they're watching all the shows on TV or reading the papers and have decided to run with that theory. But yeah, as a result, it is a sacrifice that they're sacrificing a bit of size. We just don't have that player. We do, but he's been stood down.
Yeah.
That player that can do both. That can do the hit ups. He has the silky ball skills. Can chop anyone down in the middle. Ticks all those boxes and offload as well. Yeah, look, they're definitely sacrificing something. And even if one extra bigger body means, say, McInnes can be brought down by one defender easily.
Yeah.
If a guy's big enough, I think we're short one front rower actually. You're going one step further and mentioning the lock is a lightweight, and 100% agree. You can't teach size, and a guy like Paul Vaughan. Imagine two Vaughans. That would be a completely different side.
Yeah.
Vaughan takes 3-4 players. He swats players off like your little kids trying to tackle him, like your son's trying to tackle you. In the backyard. So they're definitely a lightweight team. They persisted with Graham probably 1 year too long as well, and now we've had to just do this makeshift with McInnes.
Yeah. Look, fifth tackle before we get to the last tackle. I want to hand this over to you. I don't want anything to do with this at the moment because it's called Nothing Like a Cheap Hooker, and no idea. Give it to you. Off you go.
Okay. Look, nothing like a cheap hooker. Look, I'm a little bit biased for two positions on the football field, that is. So the lock position, because I played a fair bit of lock, but I played hooker as well. I just love the fact that the dummy half / hooker, they touch the ball more than anyone on the field. I know the halves get the biggest contracts, and wingers get all the tries, but hookers, if you don't have a good, smart, cheeky little hooker or dummy half, it can be a missing piece. The reason I called it nothing like a cheap hooker is because I'm just so in awe with the talent that's come through this year, with the emergence of the little guy, with this this 6 again rule in the new faster game. I have a short list of names here. Your mate Reid Marnie, very, very impressive. Um, there's an instinct with a dummy half, and it's a combination of obviously instinct and also vision, and a feel for what's going on. To be able to pick when to run is to feel the energy from the defense and specifically the markers, and to also watch their feet, right? The dummy half will always look at the good ones, will always look at the feet of the first marker, and they'll know, is he bouncing, or is he barely getting there, or is he flat-footed, and you'll know if you can run. Reid Marnie is very, very impressive, and plus he has a great diagonal inside ball, so he can switch the play. And his service is good. His medium to long passes are good too. On the chest every time. And you've got to hit 100 out of 100. 99, 98 out of 100 is not good enough, in my opinion. The others are, I'll just read them through, the Bailey brothers, of course. One's at Sharks, and one, unfortunately, has got a season-ending injuries for the Knights. I was looking forward to seeing him play too, because he was the first one to come through, I believe, and he went to the Knights. And the way they play their system, I thought he suited. They're an up-and-coming team, whereas Sharks are sort of an aging team,
Yeah.
So they're not speed. They're a strangling team, but the Knights are a speed team. He would have fit perfectly, unfortunately. Sam Birrells, Reece Robson, as you know, he was stuck behind McGuinness and stuck under McGregor. Couldn't quite work out how to use him. That's right. We'll extend him again. And I've saved the best for last. There's the forgotten man, Manasseh Fainu. I don't know if you remember him. He was at Manly. He was the guy that replaced Api Coruscant when Coruscant had a long injury and Coruscant couldn't get his position back. He was a younger, smaller version. He hit just as hard and ran just as quick out of dummy half. And his services were good. Unfortunately, he has an off-field issue he has to sort out, so we probably won't see him to next year either. Last but not least, the most impressive as a total package of the cheap hookers is Harry Grant. You probably heard a bit about him. Surely he was in the Cam Smith school of dummy half / hookers. And obviously Craig Bellamy. Sorry?
He had to have been in that school. He's a freak.
100%. He's so impressive, but the reason I call him the total package is physically he's up already. Melbourne, one thing about Melbourne, even if they're a young bloke, they come in and they're all built, ready to go. You see some young blokes at Dragons Brigade, they're skinny, they're small, they're not ready for first grade. Look at the Bulldogs. All the outside backs are skinny. They look like fitness trainers. They don't look like rugby league players. You know what I mean? This Verrills guy, he's got the guns, he's got the chip, because that's the thing you need to work on first. And the rest, obviously, the hip strength as well. They know what they're doing, Melbourne. Sorry, what did I say? Verrills. I meant Harry Grant. And his service, again, he's got a great switch, short ball. He's got a long ball that can hit anything he can hit a dime from 20 meters. He can run. He's got the power. He's got low center of gravity, so you can't tackle him low. And you have to deal with that big upper body I'm talking about. Very impressive. And he will nick a few tries. He's already nicked a couple of tries, and he'll nick he'll nick a few more. As you can see, it excites me. I played 6 years of dummy half, and it's great to see. Love the cheap hookers.
I think people worry about Queensland's depth coming forward, but they've got both Marnie and they've got Green as well coming through. So they've got a few good hookers coming in the ranks, and I think, as you said, it's fine. So, and that's a good balance of managing your salary cap when you can get those cheap ones in, and especially in a spine, if you can get cheap spine players, your roster management and your team overall is going to be amazing. So, last tackle, the 6-1, I'm going to talk about just one for Manly fans out there, and just a concern I've seen in their performance on the weekend. Now, look, I know they're down Trbojevic and and Walker, a couple of key players to their team. But my concerns with Manly was that they were sort of went missing that Wayne and I haven't seen a Manly team do it under Des Hasler for quite some time, and he would have been very disappointed with that performance. He would have been tearing paint off the walls at full time, and I think Manly would have known what was coming with that, because a Manly team, that what they've now come to know is that they're going to be a tough, hard team to beat no matter what and no matter who's on the team. And I still think they had the right sort of team players in place to get a result on the weekend, or get a lot better than that. They made the Sharks look like a top 4 team, and we all know the Sharks have been a bit of trouble this year. So I don't know if you had a chance to watch that, Sid, but how do you think Manly went, and do you see some issues? Because they're going to be without both of those players for at least a few weeks. Trbojevic probably 2 months or so. So they've got to fix that up soon, because a couple of weeks and a few losses in a row, all of a sudden you're down to probably 12th, 13th on the ladder. So
Yeah, look, I don't think it's panic stations. The core and the foundation is still there. They've still got, they've still got those awesome front rowers. They've still got DCE. They've got Jake Trbojevic there as well. The edges are good. Look, I see a stable team. What I saw was maybe perhaps a little hangover from a few weeks in a row of great performances. I mean, even the game they lost against the Eels was it was a grueling game. And I think they'll be back. Maybe who knows? I mean, you don't know. They might have got a few days off and were a little bit flat. They got better as the game went on. I mean, they got angry as the game went on, is what I saw.
Yeah.
I think they'll be right. Look, the bottom line is it was a very similar performance for the Sharks. I know John Morris isn't the greatest coach going around, but I think he's popular, and they came out the same way that the Cowboys did for Paul Green. They wanted to make a statement, especially the younger players, because John Morris had a very long relationship with the younger players, because he coached the under-20s for a good while. That's why when he brings one in, they're so good. He's actually really close with them. So the Sharks ambushed Manly. Manly were a bit slower to the punch. And then before they knew it, it's a moment of game. It's not like some sports where you can build pressure, and not score. In league, you should be able to score, and most teams can score, aside from a handful. And then they wrapped up a score very quickly, and the game was gone. But man, they'll be back. I don't think it's panic stations.
There's some positive signs out there for you Manly fans. I'm a bit more concerned with that, but we'll see how they go. Look, guys, I just want to do a last couple of things as well. Just preview a few of the close games moving forward to give you guys a bit of, I guess, our thoughts, help you guys with some tips for the week ahead. First game I want to talk about is the big one, Storm versus Roosters. I see this. I'll tell you what, I was leaning more towards the Storm, but then I've seen Munster get injured and he's out for a couple of weeks, which that's massive for the Storm. I know they've still got Cam Smith, but he just helps them. He's a second foil, and he's probably been one of the form players of the comp so far. For that reason, I'm going to be going the Roosters. Sid, where do you see this one?
Look, I'll have to lean to the Roosters, very similar to what you're saying. It's because, look, Munster's one of those rare players, and there are only a handful in the league at the moment, maybe maximum 10 of them, where they don't need a set piece to make a break.
Yep.
They don't need a build-up play to make a break or something to put him in a scenario. There's defenders in front of him, and then he just makes a break. He's so strong. He's actually pretty one-dimensional, if I'm being honest. He's got a left foot step and a left foot palm. But like Inglis in his prime, everyone knew about it, but no one could stop it. And he's got an instinct of the passing and the kicking. He will do a chip, or he can put in a grubber at the drop of a hat. He's got that competitiveness, and he's got really, really a deceptive strength. Is probably the best put. So it's going to be difficult. Melbourne will have to rely on their sweeping players that end up with Vunivalu in the corner and Adaka in the corner, around the ruck from, say, Pappenhausen, for example. But that's a big, big hole to fill. That's 10 points difference for Melbourne, and I think Roosters will cover that 10 points.
Yeah, perfect. Next one I've got is the Eagles versus Cowboys. Now, interesting. Most people probably look at this and go Para by a few. I don't actually think this, and I'm a Para fan. I actually think I'm actually pretty worried about this game. Cowboys showed a little bit last week to show that they're going to stick around and not be one of those easy beat teams. And similar to what you've mentioned about the Manly, we've had a big 4 weeks. We've had 4 pretty much top 4 teams in the Roosters, Raiders, Manly, and Penrith. I'm a bit worried. Parramatta Evolve, this is a bit of a come down now for being up for so long. Now, I know the forwards are taking this pretty personally with versing Taumalolo, which is a big one for them, but they've been up for a few weeks. And every team, no matter how good they are, have a week or two where they're a bit more on a lull, and I'm a bit concerned by that. I've still tipped the Eels, but from someone who's not a fan of it, how are you seeing this one, Sid?
Look, it's tough. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Basically, what you're saying to me is they're due for a loss.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, and look, the due for a loss would tip the scale towards the Cowboys. The Cowboys have to travel, tips the scale a little bit back the other way, right? The Cowboys have had their ambush win. So their ambush victory that they haven't won in a while, they don't expect to win. They come out and they beat up the opposition. They're up, 18, 20 points early in the game. They've had that. So the element of surprise is gone. So it tips it a little bit more to the Eels. I'm guessing a grinding game, like a 20-12 or, 18-14 or 20-10 or, something like that. I think your Eels can get up, and I think also for bonus points, watch out for Jai Field. I've seen a lot of him. He plays very similar to Moses. He's going to slot in. Very similar style.
Very, very exciting. And as you mentioned that, I was actually going to mention the halves quickly, so glad you did. But exciting times to have Field make his debut for the club. And I think it's a big moment for Dylan Brown. I think he showed so far he's improved with leaps and bounds this year. He's taken on the line a lot more, and he's starting to, I think the only thing he needs to do now is take ownership of the team now that Moses is out, and he's got a brilliant chance to do that now. And I can't wait to see what he produces on the weekend, because each week I get more and more impressed by him. He keeps doing cover defenses where he chases people down and stuff. And as a 20-year-old kid, he's a freak in my eyes, and can't wait to see what he's got on the weekend. Warriors in Brisbane. Now, could there be a more entertaining game to look forward to on the weekend? Sense the sarcasm. Goodness me, you almost have to pay me to watch this one. Goodness me, YouTube, give me something, please. I was leaning towards the Warriors with this, but then Tuivasa-Sheck's now out for a week with suspension, and I just think I tipped them last week because I thought the Broncos have to win. The Broncos they have to win. This is not even anymore like there's no they get a win up. They have to win as a club. If they don't win this weekend, honestly, just bring in the second Brisbane team now, because the Broncos are going to be absolute losses for whoever knows it. If they can't get up for this and win after what they've been copying the last few weeks, and people saw my video probably the other day, please, Sid, help us out. Did Brisbane win this?
Okay, all right. I will help you out, and I'll give you a reason why. I think Brisbane's going to win because.
Hallelujah.
There you go. All right, they're gonna win because look, there's an old thing in sport, the bounce back, the new coach effect. The new coach effect, where players are prior to getting a coach sacked, they get slower and slower, and they get worse and worse, and then they get a new coach, and within 1 week they play awesome, they pass the stick, and they don't miss a tackle, all that stuff, right? That didn't happen last week for Warriors. And the Warriors interim coach now, which is Todd Payton from memory, or front rower, he's actually came out and said that some players don't want to play. He's already, we talked about Seabolt saying it's all about attitude after 5 games. This guy said it after 1. You can't play that card. You'd be lucky to play it twice a year. The great coaches always say, don't scathe your team in public. Save it. Maybe twice a year, maybe once or twice a year. So he's already called out his team, trying to motivate them. I don't know. I don't think it's going to work. Like you said, RTS is out. That's a big loss. I think this will be a chance for Broncos to paper over their cracks and right some wrongs in their head. It's not going to turn their season around, but they'll get a decent win. Probably 30 or 40 points.
Oh, all right, perfect. If that happens, I reckon Broncos will act like they'll win the grand final after that. The Brisbane fans, you won't hear the end of it. So they need a desperate win. They are that desperate. The last game we've got, Manly and Knights. Put this in because there's a little point I want to make here quickly, and I know we're going to run out of time here, but just a quick one in terms of we've got two teams on the improve now that are getting up to that next level that they want to be, that standard top four consistent team. It's very easy when you haven't been that for a long time, if you get one or two or three losses in a row, to slip back into that pattern, and you start to go. Now, both of these teams have now lost one on the trot. It's not panic stations by any means, but if there's another couple more, they've both got some pretty hard teams coming up. If there's a couple more losses in a row, you can quickly get back into that old mind frame of how things used to be and how you used to act, and you sort of start to overplay things and you put a bit more pressure on yourself. So I think it's an important game. Now, I think this is going back to Lotto Land, I think, for the first time this year. I think they've been given permission, Manly, to play there. But improving, correct me if I'm wrong there, Sid, but I'm pretty sure that's what I read. For mine, Walker and Trbojevic is still a big loss. I'm going to lean towards the Knights. I have seen a bit more from them. And just because of the hiding they got given on the weekend, I think O'Brien's going to make a stamp here. How you find this one, Sid?
Look, they're both coming off a sleepy performance, let's say. They're both, we talked about the teams that ambushed. Yep. The Cowboys ambushed the Knights. The Sharks ambushed Manly. You couldn't write this stuff. They're going to come together. They happen to be Manly back home. They happen to be rivals, the F3 rivals, and I'm guessing this game's going to be really tight. I'm going to annoy the viewers and say it's going to be a draw.
Wow. I was thinking it's going to be a close game as well, but draw, you're calling it. So go load up, gamble responsibly, sports bet, put a draw in. It's probably, $41 or something. Wow, a draw. Look, Sid, once again, you're pretty much on full time now, and it's good to see. And just point out that's the Leichhardt jersey, guys. He's going to try and wear a different jersey each week. He loves it. He's bringing back his past junior days playing and living back in the glory days. He's going to bring it back. He's not a Tigers fan, by the way. Just one of his jerseys he's got hanging up. So, have you got any final words there, Sid?
Oh, look, it's exciting times. We're talking about footy. Never a dull moment. I mentioned you the other day, the gift that keeps on giving.
Yep.
There's always a story. I'm pretty sure we're going to have enough for 6 tackles, if not a 7 tackle set, pretty much every time we have a chat. It's good, and I'm looking forward to this week. Another chapter in the soap opera that is rugby league. 120 years old and still going.
No doubt there's going to be a lot more topics come out of this week of footy. And just a quick shout out. I want to give a shout out to the NRL and Big Peter V'landys. We've seen the AFL at the moment struggling and changing their draw a lot, things like that. We're sticking solid. We're doing what we've got to do. All hail King V'landys, because he's absolutely changing the game. It's been the best it's been in, I reckon, for a long, long time. Kudos to you, NRL. Give me a shout out. Give me something. Give Sid something as well. But guys, thanks again for listening. Give us all your feedback, any questions. There is a couple of questions about Supercoach and things like that, which we'll get to in the next couple of videos. I'm no Supercoach expert, and neither Sid, I know that, but we will try and give you some little bits of knowledge what we know, and a few other questions that we'll get back to. But guys, thanks heaps for listening. Me and Sid have got to get to bed now. It's about almost midnight here, but we'll come back and chat to you next week. Thanks, guys.